I'm Tracy Vo, I'm a Channel 9 presenter and I'm a sandgroper. Born and bred in Perth, and we grew up in the suburb of Hamersley, so in the north. And it was an awesome childhood. I have got an older brother, Trevor, and I were just, it's the typical, I guess, Aussie childhood, road bikes, cricket in the backyard, bit of basketball, riding bikes with the neighbourhood kids. So family barbecues in the backyard as well. So it was a really great childhood in that neighbourhood, and it was everyone just got along. Everyone knew each other back then. It's very different these days with neighbourhoods, but yeah, it was wonderful. My parents are from Vietnam, and my father, his name is Tai, T-A-I. So all of his brothers, so he's one of 24 kids, and he's number 18. So yeah, my grandma and grandpa were very busy for decades. My grandma, she was a tough woman, and as the kids got older, the kids would look after the younger siblings, so it made life a bit easier. And it was in Vietnam, it was big families, and it's very family orientated, so there was always a focus on looking after each other. And all of the boys pretty much have Vietnamese names starting with T, so Mum and Dad wanted to keep on with that tradition. And also, I've got my dad's middle name in my middle name, and so does Trevor. And I think it just sort of landed that way as well. But also, people find it quite funny when we say Trevor and Trace, because they're also the two most kind of Aussie names you would ever find for, Vietnamese Australian kids. So, but yeah, that's the story behind our names. I mean, I think, life, it always, you've always got some tumultuous times. I mean, I probably could name two that are probably most significant. One I haven't spoken about much at all, really. The other one I have, so that I'll share the one that I've have before, where, typical childhood through primary school. Sometimes I felt there was a sense I didn't belong anywhere, especially with friendship groups, and I did cop a bit of bullying. So because of what I looked like and my heritage, I was ridiculed for my skin colour. There was one particular moment where I was told I had ugly skin, and I went home that day after school and went to the bath and tried to scrub my skin so it would lighten up. Yeah. So, but that story I share a lot now, especially with schools and whatever events that I'm speaking at, because it's kind of shaped me in the person that I am today. And the other one I haven't shared much at all, really, is just, financial burden that my family has suffered. My parents are Vietnamese refugees. They came here with nothing after the Vietnam War, and they really built and they really worked hard to build a life for us. They knew that they wanted kids here in Australia. And, life was good for a while, but, they ran their own business. Our dad was a chef, Mum was a baker. So we have awesome food all the time, which is great. But, yeah, so they had their own business through the 90s, but it's, one business decision which just sort of makes everything crumble. And one thing that I had experienced for a long time after that sort of moment, a knock at the door would kind of freak me out or make me anxious, because we'd always have debt collectors or something like that. But, in saying that, we have come out the other side, and what my parents have learnt from that situation is that you don't need much to be happy. And they have less now than they did back then, and they're absolutely happy. So I guess that sort of built my brother and I to the people that we are today as young adults as well. So yeah, there's probably two moments that have really sort of shaped who I am today. I met my partner later in life, well into my late 30s, and we're getting married very soon. So it's wonderful, and he has a 4-year-and-a-half-year-old daughter. Before meeting Liam, yeah, finances were a huge thing for me, being single, and I worked hard, I did extra shifts. And thank goodness, for me, Channel 9 has looked after me and they've supported me, which is wonderful. And my main priority, though, was to make sure my family, Mum and Dad, were doing okay. So my brother and I sort of took on a bit of that role and that load as well to make sure that they're okay. And, it's taught me actually now is not to take anything for granted, but my parents, you know, if they had $1 left just for themselves, but they see someone else who's worse off, they'd give that $1 away. So I think, you know, no matter what I've got, I'm in a very fortunate situation. But no matter what I've got, I just still want to be generous, and be generous in heart as well. So I think I try to keep that in at the forefront of my mind when I'm with, you know, in a sort of a relationship, but also seeing how I treat Liam's daughter, who's 4.5, who's going to be my stepdaughter very soon. So, and also to teach those kinds of things as well, you know. It's nice to have money, but it's not everything. Yes. So as long as you're happy within yourself and look after the ones you love, I think that's the most important thing in life. Yeah. It's going to be wonderful. I think everyone. Yeah. We've got like my mum's even like, oh, finally, and I'm just squeezing in before my 40th birthday. It's a month before my 40th, so. So I know, I just got in there, just, just before another milestone. I've had wonderful, great moments in my life in regards to work. Like I travelled overseas. The last big moment for my career, I could say, was covering the Queen's passing last year. And that was an amazing experience and a peak for me, I suppose, in my career. Life-wise, I think, you know, I making the decision, I lived in Sydney for a long time. I started my career, my media career in Sydney, and I was there for about 10 years. So I think another big, huge decision, which I think was the best decision I've made at that point in time, was to move back home for my family, because I haven't missed experiences with them and missed, you know, I missed a lot of things, you know, through those 10 years. So it's just nice to be able to be 10 minutes away or 20 minutes away from them. And I guess maybe the next big one I suppose, is to finally get married. Finally celebrating love, you know. So, you know, I never knew when that would happen, but I guess, you know, everything's fallen into place, and I think that's what's special for me, yeah. Do you know what the funny thing is? Just because you're single and another person is single, they think that you guys will fit. Yeah. And I'm never one to push a friend who's single and I know another person who's single. It's like, oh, you guys, just because you guys are, yeah, you're both alone, so you may as well be together. No, I think that was just quite a funny, that I can laugh about it now, because it is all life experience to get to this point, right? And look, there's moments where you feel like I just want to meet someone, but then sometimes you go, well, that's life, and it's carved for you through the universe of where you're supposed to be in that point in time. And you know, I was meant to meet Liam at that point in time in our lives, so, and it's worked out for the best. So you know, all I can say is just keep the faith, and, you know, good things come eventually. Yeah. Gosh, enjoy it. You got time for yourself. You know, the one thing I really miss, one of the things, just being able to drop everything and just travel. I used to travel so much, and I did it on my own. I was happy to, and I knew I'd meet people along the way and create like little friendships here and there and have company. So I just think enjoy it, because it does all change, and you know, those life experiences that you have on your own will benefit you in the future as you get older. If you asked the 6-year-old me when I was bullied about my skin that I would ever be on TV reading, you know, primetime news in my hometown, I would be like, yeah, right. You know, you got to be dreaming. So I feel so, I've worked hard, but I feel very grateful and privileged to be able to do the role that I get to do every night. It's not lost on me the responsibility we have to share stories and deliver important information every single day to everyone who's watching us out there. I have had serious concerns about where media was heading, and I feel like the fact that it's been called out, you know, the misinformation, fake news, like we've faced all those kinds of accusations. I think it's about getting it right, and making sure we share the necessary stories that need to be shared for the people that matter. So I think that's what my passion is. That's still keeping me going with news. And like, I just love learning new things as well. Like, and that's what's the beauty of news, is that you get to learn new things every single day. A little piece of information, a new word, like, you know, a new pronunciation, or you know, like our minds are built to gain all this general knowledge. It's almost like a filing cabinet. So I think that still, you know, just drives me to continue on with this role. And, you know, we have got a great team. I think that's what we're like, a second family, because news is so unique. No one gets it until you're in it, or media, I should say. Our jobs, we peak at the end of the day. So everyone's, you know, got their 9 to 5 gigs. By the time it's 4:30 or Friday, you know, Friday afternoon drinks, we're like lifting at 6 p.m. So it's a bit of an odd thing for our body. It's almost an out of body experience. But there are intimate moments with our colleagues too. Like, I've travelled with a lot of cameramen. We've really gotten to know each other, because it's just literally you two and a camera, and in some remote places as well. So it's a very unique situation. It's not that glamorous, and it's all live. Because people think it's all pre-recorded. No, it's all live. Yeah. We do help write things, but every reporter who gets sent out on a job, and when I've been out on the road, you write your own stories. But it's not glamorous. Like, I've been stuck at crime scenes for like 8 hours with no loo, and like, I've had to eat Macca's for breakfast, lunch and dinner. That's So, you know, and you're sitting in a gutter for hours. So it's not that glamorous, but we make it look glamorous. Oh, you know, but I also like to think that what you see in real life is what you see on TV as well. It's funny, we've had some students come through recently just doing their postgrad, and I just say, just be yourself as well. You're not wanting to be a completely different person. You're not an actor. Yeah. We're news presenters and we're journalists, so, you know, we're real people too. So I think it took me a while to kind of get to that point, but I think I must admit, sitting in that role as a presenter, and I've learnt from the best, like Michael Thompson, he's the most genuine bloke you'll ever meet. So watching him and how he is off camera, he's exactly this. What you see is what you get with him. So, you know, that warmth and that, genuine banter and that sort of stuff. So I think that's how it's shaped me in real life as well. But in terms of, you know, I guess, different elements of work, story-wise, again, I feel so privileged to be able, when people allow me into their homes to hear their stories and to deliver it for them, I can't thank them enough. Every person that I've interviewed over my 20-odd year career, you know, I guess I'd like to thank them for letting me share their stories. So, and I hope I can keep doing it for a little bit longer. Oh, so my younger self, I would have said, just back myself and just be me. I think for a long time, through the young years, teenage years, through to uni, you kind of navigate, and, you know, I think a lot of younger generational people deal with this. You just don't know what your identity is, but I'm like, once you discover it, just be you, and who cares what anyone else thinks. You're not going to please everybody. I think that's the one thing. You're not going to please everybody, but as long as you're happy within yourself. So that's probably the one piece of advice I would give my younger self, is to back myself. And to the younger generation, it's a marathon, not a sprint. I say that a lot about journalism and working in a newsroom, but also I think it's also life. Like, I think if you're sprinting to the next thing, you're sort of losing sight of what experience you're not sort of taking in the experience that you're right in it, you know, in the moment. You know what I mean? So I think just take your time. I think we're just always running so fast to get to the next point where we're not even just, you know, taking a moment to slow down. And I'm guilty of it. So maybe I should take that advice on myself. But, but yes, no, it's a marathon, not a sprint.